Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, and today we'll be talking about the countless Republicans that have now endorsed Joe Biden for president. So as we look through this list, we're going to be talking about the Republicans who endorsed Joe Biden today and previously, and talk about that impact on the electoral map, because it's not just, Carly Fiorina and John Kasich. We are starting to see some more prominent figures that were previously, Republican shining stars or very well known in the Republican Party that have now endorsed Joe Biden for president. So let's go ahead and take a look at the list that is on your screen. So the first most notable one is former Governor John Kasich from the state of Ohio. He served as a representative from Ohio. He became the governor, and he was the fourth place candidate in the 2016 GOP primary. So the reason why that's significant, well, number one, Governor John Kasich has always been in firm opposition to President Trump. That's one main thing that is very well known about John Kasich, that he has always been a never-Trumper. In 2016, him and Ted Cruz banded together to avoid a Donald Trump nomination because they thought they would lose the presidency if he was nominated. For John Kasich, him speaking at the convention last night was very, very good for a lot of those on-the-fence Republicans that may not have been too inclined to vote for Joe Biden following if John Kasich had not spoke. I mean, a lot of the things that he was arguing in favor of Joe Biden wasn't the fact that they are matching in terms of policy, but also just a return to decency, a return to normalcy in our American electorate. Looking at George W. Bush's cabinets, we've seen Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel and Secretary of State Colin Powell and Christine Whitman. These are all people that, were very staunch supporters of George Bush in the past. Anthony Scaramucci, if you remember who that is, I mean, he was there for a very small period of time. I mean, he was up in the ranks. I mean, the media covered him for those short 2 weeks because he was a very outspoken communications director. But, now he's endorsing Joe Biden over Donald Trump, which I think is very significant as well. So with John Kasich's endorsement of Joe Biden in Ohio, it makes Ohio a little bit more competitive. I mean, John Kasich won here by a very solid margin. Both of his elections came to a victory here in the 2016 Republican primary. And then in 2020, now he's endorsing Joe Biden. In 2018, in fact, those Republicans rode John Kasich's wave into the governor's race in the state of Ohio in 2018. So his popularity rating was super high in 2018. Definitely holds a lot of weight in that state, and him endorsing Joe Biden very well could shift this state a little bit leftward. Looking at Carly Fiorina, she's from, California. She also ran with Senator Ted Cruz from Texas. That was pretty significant that she ran with him, considering that he announced her as a VP choice. She was pretty much used as a way to prop up his primary campaign back to being relevant, but she still was the vice presidential nominee for Senator Ted Cruz's campaign. And, she said that she could not support Trump and Meg Whitman. A lot of these people that were around Carly Fiorina and serving as Republicans. I mean, Carly Fiorina ran for president in 2016. She peaked at second place in polling data following one of the first debates when she attacked, not at the time, Donald Trump. He wasn't president at the time, so I'm not going to refer to him as President Trump then. But I mean, Carly Fiorina is a very notable name considering she was firm in her opposition to Hillary Clinton, but now very, very much a staunch supporter of Vice President Biden. Former Republican senators, 4 of them: Gordon J. Humphrey of New Hampshire, David Durgenberger of Minnesota, John Warner of Virginia, and Jeff Flake of Arizona. So the reason why Jeff Flake's endorsement is very important is because Arizona, while he wasn't a popular senator, some Republicans still liked the idea of him being a traditional Tea Party type conservative. A lot of what he stood for, the Romney and McCain campaigns stood for as well. So for Arizona, Arizona getting bluer, it's matching with the demographics. It's matching with what we saw in 2018. Pretty much everything is pushing against Jeff Flake. Pushing against Donald Trump, including Jeff Flake, and also today's endorsement of Joe Biden that will be announced at the DNC, another person joining the ranks against Donald Trump's reelection bid. Former Representative Susan Molinari, she served in, I believe, Long Island, New York. She spoke in the Democratic Convention. She was the keynote speaker in 1996 at the Republican National Convention. We see, Republicans from Illinois and Hawaii that are going against Donald Trump and saying, you know what, maybe Joe Biden isn't the candidate that we really wanted, but Donald Trump definitely isn't. And these are, Republican Party supporters that supported Trump and voted for him in 2016 that are all of a sudden saying, after 4 years of his presidency, they can no longer endorse him for re-election. As we look, Cindy McCain, she now is endorsing Joe Biden tonight at the DNC. Before, she was saying, she hinted, I'm going to not vote for Donald Trump, and the only other option at the time would have been Joe Biden. And I think her endorsing Joe Biden at tonight's convention will be very monumental for a lot of Republicans, because now you have, John McCain, not John McCain, Cindy McCain endorsing Joe Biden. I mean, this is the person who is the wife of the candidate who ran against Biden in 2008, practically Obama and Biden together. So John McCain has had his fair share of words against Joe Biden, but the fact that the 2008 Republican nominee's wife is now endorsing Joe Biden for president is very significant. Arizona is a very crucial state. The McCain name holds a lot of weight in this state. I mean, he outran Donald Trump's margin of victory here, John McCain, in 2016 by a very substantial margin. So Arizona definitely could be pushed even more to the left following this endorsement tonight, because you have Jeff Flake telling these Republican voters, and Trump voters may not necessarily listen to either Cindy McCain or Jeff Flake, but some of these on-edge Republicans, these Tea Party Republicans who elected Jeff Flake for the first time and elected John McCain while possibly voting for Hillary Clinton in 2016, are going to be very solid in their support of Joe Biden. In fact, could move over and sway a number of Republicans who are already on edge. So while Carly Fiorina doesn't exactly offer an electoral college advantage from California, this is a state that was practically a given. Ohio and Arizona are going to be two swing states that are going to be targeted very heavily. Paul Ryan and John Boehner have not explicitly said who they are voting for. If you are the former Republican Speaker of the House and you're saying, I'm not telling you who I'm voting for, you're probably not voting for the incumbent Republican president. That's something also that's pretty important. And we're seeing a very general theme from a number of Republicans across this country that they are no longer supporting Joe Biden for president. A lot of these candidates, or former candidates in 2016, John Kasich and Carly Fiorina, and a lot of these very notable Republicans, such as Cindy McCain or Susan Molinari, these Republicans, I mean, they were very well known in the Republican Party, and some of those older voters that were used to a McCain and Romney-esque type Republican Party that have seen Donald Trump and, voted for him in 2016 just because they didn't want Hillary Clinton in office, now may be reconsidering whether or not they're voting for Donald Trump again. I mean, a lot of the promises that he made were not kept. And that's something that the Republican Party is going to have to deal with, because we're starting to see ads circulate against both Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Some Republicans even are in opposition to President Trump, whether he's too leftward, as some would put it, or too rightward. I mean, some of these moderate Republicans have even switched party affiliation. We've seen a number of them speak at the DNC talking about how they used to be, Republicans, lifelong Republicans. That is a very clear theme that came out of last night's Democratic Convention night one. And it was super important to see that for Republican voters, potential Biden voters that could be easily swung, because it's not only Ohio that's being impacted and Arizona that's being impacted, but there's a number of Republicans, that voted for Romney in North Carolina that could possibly vote for Joe Biden. A number of them in Georgia. I mean, Georgia narrowed up in 2016 despite the rest of the country getting redder. Texas narrowed up by 7% in 2016 despite the rest of the country moving to the left. If we see these states, I mean, these are all states that have pretty much pushed away Donald Trump, Utah included. I mean, these are all states where Donald Trump has lost a significant portion of the vote from 2012 versus 2016. Texas was Romney plus 16, was Trump plus 9, and now he's leading by 1% in the polls. In Utah, what was Romney plus 48 only ended up being Trump plus 20. In Georgia, what was, Romney plus 10 ended up being, Romney plus 8 ended up being Trump plus 6. Arizona, which was Romney plus 6-7%, ended up being Trump plus 3-4%. So we're starting to see some of these states narrow down. While the rest of the country did get a little bit redder, it is important to note that in these Republican states, in these states that voted for Donald Trump by either a larger margin than 2012 or a smaller margin, any type of Republican endorsement for Joe Biden is going to negatively impact his numbers here, especially in states that are rapidly growing in terms of population. Georgia, Texas, and Arizona. These are all states that have narrowed up in 2016. In the most recent presidential election, narrowed up again in 2018. Texas went from being 16 for the Republicans in 2012, 9 for the Republicans in 2016, 2 for the Republicans in 2018, and now 1% according to the polling data. Arizona went from being a very solid Republican state, and now John McCain's seat that's up for an election, Martha McSally, she's the incumbent Republican. She's running for that election seat. She has maybe a 5-10% chance of retaining it. So somehow, Arizona went from being a Republican state in 2016, more Republicans than Democrats in the House, 2 Republican senators, to possibly now 2 Democratic senators, more Democrats than the Republicans in the House, absolutely, and possibly a win for the Democrats on the presidential level. And these Republican endorsements are not helping Donald Trump's case in any of these states. While Trump is losing voters and losing Republican support, obviously Joe Biden is gaining it. It would be one thing if these voters had said, or Carly Fiorina or John Kasich had just come out and spoken out and said, we're not voting for Donald Trump. But being strong enough to actually endorse the opposition candidate when you likely ran against this candidate's ideologies 4 years prior, or like Cindy McCain being the wife of the candidate who ran against Joe Biden in 2008, it is pretty important and pretty substantial. And it definitely shows a crack in the Republican Party that really is going to be a huge indicator as to whether or not, Donald Trump is truly going to win as much of the Republican vote as he claims. Because as we're starting to see, we're seeing things peel off. And as John McCain said, these are not normal times. This would never happen in a normal election. And that's because we aren't working in a normal election. All of a sudden, we see all of these states be competitive. And these are all very solid states for Donald Trump just 4 years ago. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join, and then a video on your screen you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you all on Twitter tonight during DNC Night 2.